Mexico, where this has a big influence. But I think the developing countries should help each other with best practices in what to do about this high birth rate. And of course, you have all the data why this has to be done.
Thank you. May I ask first to answer Professor Voorhoeven?
The answer can be found in Bangladesh, where self-help groups originally starting their work to settle, led to the growth of the development organization BRAC, which focuses on agriculture, on village development, on the role of women, on family planning, on informal forms of education. It's a miracle how that organization grew very rapidly and now is one of the important global players in the field of development cooperation. You find them in Afghanistan, you find them in many other countries doing extremely good, effective and low-cost work. So I mention Bangladesh because you focused on Indonesia. I think Bangladesh is the best example of possibilities which lie there in developing countries themselves and in an Islamic country.
You want to add first?
Quickly. Bangladesh is a very interesting case in point because the steep decline in fertility in Bangladesh proves beyond doubt that poverty and illiteracy and a predominantly rural country are not absolute barriers to the achievement of smaller family sizes. That is the biggest lie of all, propagated mainly by economists, is that poor people need or want lots of children. It's absolute bunkum. But it took Bangladesh 10 years to make a dent in the birth rate, with very high, as well as BRAC and the Grameen Bank, there's very high political support for contraception. And in poor countries, modern birth control does not come seamlessly. It doesn't come easily. There's huge initial suspicion, sort of hostility that this is usurping God's will. It was just the same in Europe around 1900. Margaret Sanger got imprisoned in Brooklyn for opening a birth control clinic in 1910, I think. Murray Stopes was brought to trial in England in 1880. So it didn't come easily in Europe either. It ruffles social and moral feathers, the idea that women should be, particularly women, should be given the power to choose when to become pregnant. It worries men because they think women are going to become totally promiscuous. So my answer to your question is, of course, you've got to make contraception readily available and affordable. But above and beyond that, you have to win the battle of the imagination, the battle of the mind. You have to persuade people, initially the elites and filtering down, that modern contraception is not harmful. It is a perfectly respectable thing to do. It is not immoral. And that, what's more, it's the only path to progress. And that requires huge political will, I believe. And that's been what's lacking in Africa. Asian governments nearly all bought into the idea that population stabilization through the promotion of family planning was essential. And they received vast support, both moral and financial, from the World Bank and the American government. The tragedy about Africa is that that moral and financial support has disappeared. It's evaporated in the last 15 years, and it needs to be brought back.
Thank you very much. And to add one remark to the figures, Arend, well, the picture is not always white and black. It was if you refer to Indonesia as a success story, within that same Indonesia, the biggest winner of the best performing institute in favor of family planning was in Indonesia, the Roman Catholic Church. May I give the floor to the lady over there? Oh, sorry.
For a long time, Jyotsna Gupta, University for Humanistics. Although I share Professor Cleland's concern for our children, yours and mine, I have great problems with both your analysis and the solution that you offer. One, in your analysis, I mean, I don't know if we've moved anywhere further from Malthus. You have traced a clear, connection between numbers and hunger, poverty, and environmental destruction, which has come later. Malthus, of course, did not consider that in his analysis. But I mean, one, I didn't hear, except now in your answer to the last question or remark, anything about men, focusing on men at all. It was only about women, both in terms of contraception and in terms of, in Professor Farooq's thing, you did mention the example of Bangladesh. And in fact, that itself gives us some of the answers. I mean, if one is concentrating on, developing various aspects of people's lives, their potentialities, that's the answer where we are seeking, and not just in contraception, and that too just for women. I mean, that's one of the things I want to say. And the other thing is, it's a very simplistic argument that you've presented, without any of the global trade relations, all the other things which affect people's lives, why they choose, if they choose. Not you said, I agree there, that not everybody chooses or the desired number of children, but why, if they do choose, are they making rational choices? Why do we always assume that people are making irrational choices? So the whole question of trade relations, the poverty which is caused by the unequal trade relations in the world, none of that is included in your analysis. And I'm surprised that now, I mean, and especially at this institute where we teach same population studies, I've also lectured in some of those courses, that we've got such a simplistic analysis which is really not moved anywhere beyond Malthus.
Thank you so much. Well, here we come to at least some subjects also for further lectures and discussions. Professor Cleland and then Professor Voorhoven.
Yes, excellent. Excellent question. I think I did mention fair trade when I try to sort of picture how countries escape from poverty. Good governance, I think I mentioned fair trade, nothing much to do with population. But the increases in human capital and increases in physical capital, I think anybody, even from the ISS, would agree that they are essential routes to the escape from poverty. And I thought I had put forward a convincing argument how a population structure with that very broad base, with nearly half the population consuming more than it produces, was extremely unhelpful for increasing human capital, the skills of the labour force, and also because savings are very difficult both at the household and government level when you have to devote so many resources to this huge population.
Why do they have such few resources in the first place? Because we are consuming more in this. We are asking them to produce biofuels for us and not subsistence crops for what they can eat, if they can't eat biofuels. But that's what we need for our cars.
Well, I don't think we can get there. Personally, I don't think the poverty of Niger is a matter of international exploitation myself. And I firmly believe that countries in Africa and elsewhere owe it to that they have to struggle out of poverty. And the rich world may not help them very much, but it's up to them to generate the skills and the infrastructure that through their own effort they can get out of it. And it's much more difficult with a rapidly growing population where 45% of everybody's under the age of 15. And it's not the panacea, of course not, but it's an important fact. And if you don't accept that, you're teaching development in a one-eyed way, I might say.
Well, I think it is very worthwhile the question mark, do we need to go beyond Malthus? And your question in that sense and the broad approach it deserves, certainly in the follow-up of our meetings, very strong and intensive